Good afternoon, everyone. I'm loving the vibe in this room. Amazing. Thank you all so much for coming this afternoon. We really value your time out of your busy lives to be with us this afternoon. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of this land in which we meet, the Gundungurra and Tharawal people, and express my respect to those elders past, present and emerging. Just a few housekeeping things before we start. We have two emergency exits, the one door that you came in and this one here, which is just push to exit. We do have toilets, they're outside, so feel free to leave whenever you need to. Bathrooms are just around the corner there. Later on this afternoon, after the meeting, we will have time for questions outside. So the way we're going to do it, we'll have some catering for you outside, tea and coffee, where you can relax, have a conversation and have a chat to any one of us if you have any questions after the presentation. Okay, so just the purpose of this afternoon. So the first thing we want to do is raise awareness. So of Council and the combat agency's involvement in all emergencies. Provide an update on what Council has done and is doing and will always continue to do in prevention, preparedness, response and recovery within our communities. We really want you to understand and learn, if you don't already know, the role of Wingecarribee Local Emergency Management Committee, known as the LEMC. So you will tonight hear us probably throw that acronym out a little bit just by habit. So that's what it stands for. And the combat agencies and their approach as well to also prevention, preparedness, response and recovery. We'll hear from New South Wales Reconstruction Authority, formerly known as Resilience New South Wales, and the Australian Red Cross and their roles in emergencies and recovery. And then at the end, what we need from you as a community, because you also have control over how you are prepared for emergencies. I will just quickly introduce the speakers for this evening. They will come up in order. So we have Lisa Hemble, our General Manager of Wingecarribee Shire Council, here with us this evening. We have Renee Haston, Chief Inspector, Officer in Charge at Southern Highlands New South Wales Police Force. We have Dylan Whitelaw, Chief Inspector, Local Commander of the Southern Highlands New South Wales State Emergency Service. Daniel Osborne, District Manager of Southern Highlands New South Wales RFS. We have Aiden Barton, Program and Project Officer for Biosecurity Operations for the Local Land Services Agency. We have Andrew Ray, Senior Coordinator Officer, and Phoebe Ward from the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority. I'll get in trouble for that later. And we've got Geraldine Dayball from the Red Cross. Here with us at Council this evening, we have Greg Bray, a Manager of Shire Presentation and also our LEMO, so Local Emergency Management Officer. We have David Bellick, Community Recovery Officer. Myself, my name's Corinne Buxton. I'm the Coordinator of Community Development for Council. We've got Barry Arthur and Martin Flipchick from the Environment and Sustainability team as well. So we'll move over. So the next slide here is for Lisa. I'd like to introduce her.
I'm a little bit shorter, so I'll just... it's great to see you all here tonight, and I should also mention Catherine Badgett-Juleff, who's got the photos over there. Kath is our new Manager, Community Life and Libraries, and started with us about 9 weeks. Okay, time flies. 9 weeks ago, not that she's counting. Look, it's great to see you all here this evening, and just want to talk to you a little bit about emergency planning and the role of the Local Emergency Management Committee. But just as context, as you probably all know, we're experiencing more frequent weather events and more severe weather events. So that can be fires, floods, storms. We had a mini tornado come through Exeter and Berrima last year, causing significant damage. And also on the radar is heat waves as temperatures rise, and Daniel may well touch on that in his presentation. So for those of you, some of you may have heard about the Local Emergency Management Committee, or the LEMC. Every local government area has an LEMC, and that is facilitated by the council. The General Manager or their delegate will chair that meeting. And because of the significance of emergencies for our community, I chair that meeting. That committee brings together the combat agencies who you'll hear from tonight, with RFS, SES, police, land services. So depending on the nature of the emergency will determine who takes the lead in that emergency. We meet usually quarterly. We prepare emergency management plans. We run exercises. So running through, last year we had a dam failure exercise. We have an exercise coming up with RFS the end of October. So that's practicing the plans that we have to make sure we all understand our roles, what we need to do. So in the event of an emergency, we're a well-oiled machine. But the committee is also about relationships and communication. On that committee, we also have our welfare or recovery partners with Red Cross, and you'll hear from Geraldine a bit later. I talked about combat agencies. So depending on the nature of the emergency will determine who is the lead. So in the event of a major bushfire, RFS and Fire and Rescue New South Wales. If it's a flood, SES. If it's a animal, say mad cow disease, it's local land services. So depending on the nature of the event, that will determine who takes the lead. In terms of council's role, if an emergency is declared, we have as Corinne mentioned, a LEMO, a Local Emergency Management Officer. Greg Bray's Council's Manager Shire Presentation, that's his job. But on top of that, he's also taken on the role of the LEMO. And in his role, it's to support the Leocon, and Renee from New South Wales Police is the Leocon. So anything that the police need or the combat agency needs, Greg's there to support. And it could be road closures, it could be additional people power to move trees down, whatever the agency needs, Greg's there and his team are there to support, and the council's there to support. So that could be human, like personnel, human power, plant, equipment, services or materials, so sandbags, whatever's needed. And just general support. So mentioned the RFS exercise in October. Greg and I will be there, and as part of that exercise, along with the police. Thanks, Dave. In terms of the EOC, or the Emergency Operations Centre, yes, we've upgraded the photo, Daniel. I saw your face last week. Yeah. We have an emergency operations centre. So what that means is it's a place where if there is a major event, it's set up, and Daniel will probably talk a bit more about that, but it's a place where the operations, like a command centre, where agencies come together, the effort's coordinated from that location. And that's an image of the EOC, or the Emergency Operations Centre at Mittagong RFS. Council's also looking to secure funding for a second EOC at the administration building in Mossvale. So we have a secondary site, or another site. Thanks, Dave. I might introduce Renee, who is the Leocon, which is the Local Emergency Operations Controller. Thanks, Renee.
Thank you. As Lisa's explained or introduced me, I'm Chief Inspector Renee Haston. I'm the officer in charge for Southern Highlands Police. So that's my day job there. But I've also been appointed as the Local Emergency Operations Controller for Wingecarribee LGA. So what that means, if I can explain that role, is in my day job as police and as with the other combat agencies, each day we'll get incidents that we respond to as police, as fire, SES for, local flooding, a storm that might come through, or a small fire. And we respond to that incident, we work together on that every day. But when there's larger scale emergencies, the combat agency will speak to me as the Leocon and will say we need a significant and we need a coordinated response. And it would be at that point, after that discussion, that I would activate the Emergency Operations Centre, and that we would get representatives from each of the agencies, and as well as council, their support, and we'll come together and work with the combat agency for what they might need and what the community might need during that emergency. So as Lisa explained, we've been meeting regularly as a local emergency management committee, and then we've got exercises planned where we can test our teamwork together and work together before we actually get to that point of an emergency. If I can just flick to register, find, reunite. I just wanted to get this information out that if an emergency is declared and there's information communicated to you that there may be evacuations required, we will let you know where the evacuation centres are for humans and for animals as well. But part of the police role is to ensure that people that are impacted by that emergency are registered. And there's a system that we've got called Register, Find, Reunite, which is available as a website. So if you come to an emergency evacuation centre, we'll have assistance from Red Cross. Thank you very much, because, police, we can't do everything. We do need your support. And they will register people as they come to the evacuation centre, and they'll put that on the system. But you can also do that yourself. If you decide that you don't want to go to an evacuation centre, that you want to go to friends or family, or if you've got some other support, you can also register yourself. And what that does, and Geraldine will explain that a bit later, it lets us know where you are and that you're safe, but also for your family members or other people that might be elsewhere that are concerned about you, they can check in and say, okay, yep, they're safe and that they know where you are. So I'll just thank you very much to Council for putting on this evening and for the opportunity to introduce myself. I'll be sticking around afterwards for a cup of tea, and I'm hoping that some of you can stay behind and we can have a chat and meet over a cup of tea. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Bray. I'm the Shire Presentation Manager. The role I perform in Council is an operational-based role. So the portfolio with this role is about roads management, drainage, trees, aquatics and open spaces. By the way, coming in tonight, the tulips out the front, I'm not sure who looks after those. They look really, really good. So we might have to put you on the paybook for the Council. But look, so the role, like I said, it is an operational role. And as everyone's mentioned tonight, I am largely involved in a supporting role with the combat agencies. So that supporting role is about applying resources. So as an operational manager, I have a good understanding of what resources are available at Council and how to apply them. That could be anything from water carts, could be earth moving equipment, it could be also administrative assistance, or even just road closures. Like with the last events, we had a lot of road closures, and we don't want police or the fire services sticking around at road closures. Council needs to play that role in that area there. So it's, like I said, it's not as important as the other roles. However, it does provide that key function of linking Council with the actual emergency or the combat agencies. But again, I'll be around at the end of the night. If anyone needs to talk to me, please come and have a chat to me. And if someone wants to come and talk to me about the tulips, I'm more than happy to have a chat about those too. So, look, thank you very much, everyone.
I'm a bit more dynamic and don't like to stand behind a podium. So my name is Daniel Osborne. I am the local district manager for the Rural Fire Service, appointed in April this year. So I'm responsible with my team for managing the Southern Highlands district, which is the Wallandilly and Wingecarribee LGAs. Like Renee and others, that is my day-to-day role in managing the affairs of the Rural Fire Service across those two LGAs. But also I have a legislative responsibility under the Rural Fires Act as the Commissioner's appointee as the Fire Control Officer. And what that means is that I am personally responsible for the suppression of all bush and grass fires across those two LGAs. And someone is hiding. I wanted to point him out, but I can't see him. He's outside. James Morris is the Deputy Fire Control Officer. So if I'm not around or unavailable for any reason, then all the responsibility is on him. So he's not here and I am. But the RFS's role in emergency management is, as already has been stated, we are the combat agency for all bush and grass fires in New South Wales, regardless of whether it occurs in Fire and Rescue's tenure or Rural Fire Service's jurisdiction. Ultimately, the Commissioner of the Rural Fire Service is responsible. I am also, and we are also, responsible for all fires that occur in Rural Fire District. So the state is broken up into two different jurisdictions, Fire and Rescue's jurisdiction and RFS jurisdiction, which virtually sees Fire and Rescue looking after urban areas and the RFS looking after everything else. we anecdotally say that fire and rescue is responsible for 95% of the population, and we're responsible for 95% of the land mass. But any fire that occurs in rural fire district, whether it be bushgrass, scrub, structure fire, motor vehicle accident, anything that is on fire, we're responsible for that as well. Across New South Wales, we have a role that is legislated to issue public warnings. So hazards near me, the RFS website, issuing advice, watch and act and emergency warnings, the emergency alert system, we're responsible for doing that for bush and grass fires. We also have a big role, and one of our main focuses, apart from response, is to prevent and mitigate bush and grass fires from occurring. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but that's part of our role. We also provide advisory services. A lot of people wouldn't know, but again, part of our legislated role is to provide advisory services, in particular to councils. So we have a role in, we've got a specialist team called our Development Control Team. They are responsible for providing advice direct to councils in relation to development applications and planning proposals for new dwellings and new development, and through some mechanisms that we have under legislation, planning for bushfire protection and others, we can apply a BAL rating, a bushfire attack level rating, which then sees people that are, particularly in a very simple example, if they're planning to build in a bushfire prone location, they may require to do certain upgrades to that development to have it approved in terms of different types of fly screening, separation from bush, having water supplies available, access for our trucks, etc. So we provide that advice to council. And then I guess the last one, and maybe more importantly, is we also have a responsibility to support every other emergency service, regardless of whether it's our jurisdiction or not. Effectively, if any combat agency or the LEOCON direct us to do anything, then we have to do our best in our power to adhere to that, and that's in legislation as well. So I spoke about reducing risk and reducing and mitigating bushfire and grass fires from occurring. And the main mechanism that we do this through is called the Bushfire Management Committee, which the Rural Fire Service is the executive agency of. But we do not own that committee. It's a committee of all land managers, so national parks, forestry, council, anyone else that might manage land, Crown lands, and also anyone that has an interest or a group that has an interest in bushfire mitigation or response. So the energy companies, Farmers Federation, all of the different stakeholder groups, the wineries, anyone that might be impacted or affected forms the Bushfire Management Committee. And at the moment, we're going through our next generation bushfire risk management plan. So we have to, as a committee, develop a 5-year plan, and that sees us identifying risk and reducing that risk effectively. And it's a tenure blind approach. So it doesn't matter if it's public land, private land, doesn't matter. We look at it broadly across the landscape and identify what areas are at the highest risk, and then identify treatments. And when I say treatments, I mean things like hazard reduction burning, asset protection zones, community engagement, ignition prevention measures, etc., to reduce that risk. And for the first time, and this has come out of the inquiry into the Black Summer fires, we're using some fire modelling software from the University of Melbourne to inform that process. So what they have done for us is modelled based on a lot of data that's been accumulated. Where are the highest levels of risk across the Southern Highlands? And we validate that on the ground and say, yep, that is a very high risk. And we might be surprised sometimes that we didn't consider other things in the past. But it's been a very good process. We've done that process with the BFMC. And where we're up to now with the process is we've sent that information back to the University of Melbourne, I think it's University of Melbourne, yep, along with our treatments. So what we do is we look at where the highest risk areas are, and then we identify how we're going to reduce that risk. Like I said, it could be hazard reduction burning, it could be asset protection zones, whatever that might be. We send all that back to the University of Melbourne and say to them, now model it with our treatments in place and actually see if our proposed treatments reduce risk. Because before it was, not the case. It was a couple of well-meaning people with their local experience just determining how we did that. Now it's got the technology and the fire modelling involved, and we still use our expert volunteers to validate that and provide us with input into that process. I don't know what the next slide is. Oh, we might just go back one. Another thing that we're doing as part of this process right now is kicking the door wide open to community's feedback. We are really interested, really for the first time publicly, to say what matters to you. And we put out a survey. We got a pretty dismal response from that, which that's okay. But what I'm saying to all of you is what matters to you, personally or as a community. Is it this local hall, for example? Do you want us to protect this local hall above everything else? Just using that as an example. And we want to hear from you. We want you to write an email to us, pick up the phone and talk to us and give us that feedback so that when we get to the draft plan stage, we know what different communities want us to focus on. I can't promise that we'll do everything for everyone, but the first thing we can do is listen. And that's what we need to do. And we've started doing that. And we'd be interested to hear from people around what their thoughts are on that. So to keep transparent, this is on our website. This just shows you our bushfire risk management plan process. I'm not going to go through it, but it shows you where we're up to. And we've completed the Have Your Say survey. We'll still take responses if you want to give me some feedback, but we're in planning development. And next comes that validation of our treatments, and after that we'll have a draft plan that the Bushfire Management Committee puts on public exhibition. So again, another opportunity for community feedback. I just also wanted to mention a couple of things that might have changed in the last couple of years. There's been a lot of work going on since the Black Summer fires, and you might have noticed that the fire danger rating signs have changed, and they've changed for good reason. People were very confused about 6 ratings. That was the feedback we got, and we needed to simplify the approach. The other benefit of this system is first time in history Australia's decided that we can all have the same fire danger rating system, so it's not an individual approach across different states. It's all of the same system now. So we've gone from 6 categories to 4, and we think, and we've validated through research, that it makes a lot more sense. People can understand a traffic light approach from green, yellow, orange, red, meaning going from not so bad to really bad, and the descriptors that go with it. Also, for the first time, we've added a key call to action for each of the different fire danger ratings, because people said to us, when it gets to extreme, what does that actually mean? When it gets to catastrophic, what do you want me to do? So you can see there the example is extreme, and it means take action now. Catastrophic, the message there is leave bushfire prone areas. And high is be prepared. So they are now being issued, the signs are out, and you can get that information from the RFS website through the Hazards Near Me app, or by contacting the Bushfire Information Line. The Hazards Near Me app has also been released, which was formerly Fires Near Me. So Fires Near Me has gone and has been transferred to Hazards Near Me, and this was an approach and a recommendation out of the Lismore flood inquiry that we should have better interconnectivity between us in particular and the SES with their warnings, and why not have one platform to do that? So this is what Fires Near Me has morphed into, and it now includes bush, grass, scrub fires, floods, storms and tsunami warnings. It's a very good application, and I really recommend that you download it or update Fires Near Me to get the latest one if you haven't already done it. There's additional information in there now, so if you don't want to know about a tsunami warning or you don't want to know about a bushfire warning, you can turn them off. So you don't have to get everything that's on offer. You can select and refine the warnings that you get. Also, for the first time, we're going to be issuing push notifications through the application. So if tomorrow is an extreme fire danger rating, we will be able to poll the residents in the Wingecarribee and push to them a message that says tomorrow's fire danger rating is extreme. The other thing you can do is set up watch zones. So you can draw a geographical area in the app, and if anything occurs within that shape that you've drawn, your application will notify you. So it will tell you that a fire has started in your watch zone, a fire's moved into it, there's a flood occurring, whatever it might be. And you can do up to 10 watch zones. So you can do yours, where you work, where your kids live, and where you holiday down the coast, for example, if you want to know all of that. So familiarise yourself with it and download it. It's a very good application, and there's been a lot of work put into that one. We've also adapted our emergency warning system to a national approach again, and across agencies as well. So in years gone by, the RFS come up with a warning system, SES come up with their own, Fire Rescue come up with their own. We're all on the same page now. We all have this we all have the same. So there's 3 levels: advice, watch and act, and emergency. They all look the same. The call to actions are really all the same. Just the diamond, the little picture in the middle changes. If it's a flood, it's a squiggly water line. If it's a tornado, it's a whirly. And ours is a flame, of course, for fire. But what that is trying to do is standardise the approach and make it really easy for you. So if there's a watch and act of any description for any hazard, you know that it means you need to take action now. You know, there's something very close nearby and it could impact you. So understanding those is key to being prepared for the coming, I would say, bushfire season and also storm season. And the last thing I want to point out is, it's been 3 and a bit years since we experienced a fire last, or a significant fire, of course. And our research suggests that last week, only 39% of people in New South Wales believe there will be a fire season this year. That's less than half of the population believe there'll be a fire season, which is a bit scary for us because we need people to be turning their mind back to we're going into a warm, dry summer, which means the likelihood of fires occurring is greater than in the past couple of years. So what do we need you to do? We need you to be reviewing, or if you haven't got one, establish a bushfire survival plan. It's really simple. I can see people are holding the guide to them, which is fantastic, and councils put them in some packs for you. So if you need some help completing that, please reach out to us. The best thing you can do is understand what you're going to do if a fire is going to impact, and know that ahead of time. You need to discuss that with the people that you live with and the people you care about. You need to prepare your home, your property, whatever it might be. Know the ratings and know the warnings, and keep up to date with the information. I think that's my last slide. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll be around us afterwards for some questions if anyone has one. I think it's over to Dylan from the SES.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. My name's Dylan Whitelaw. I'm the local commander for the Southern Highlands cluster with the New South Wales SES. So very similar to RFS tonight, the Southern Highlands cluster not only covers the Wingecarribee Shire, but also covers the Wallandilly LGA as well. Within our cluster, we have 3 primary response units. The Wingecarribee unit, which is located at Bessemer Street in Mittagong, just behind the medical centre. Mossvale unit, which is on Parks Road in Mossvale, which is on the south side heading towards the Hume, and Wallandilly unit, which is Bridge Street, Picton, just near the fire and rescue station. The New South Wales SES, from my position down, are all volunteers. So every team that rolls out, that comes to your home, that responds to a flood, a storm event, any of those sorts of things are 100% volunteers. There's no payment made. There's no sort of pecuniary benefit for any of us apart from caring for our community. And I think that's really important to remember. In a couple of slides, we won't go next just yet if that's okay. In a couple of slides, I discuss our operational activity, and I think it'll give you a really good picture of how busy we can get as an agency. So in terms of what we do, we are the combat agency, the legislated combat agency for flood, storm and tsunami response. So that means that anytime we have one of those 3 natural disasters occur, it is our responsibility to apply resources, resolve the incident, and then appropriately transition to the recovery period, working with council and the Red Cross, Reconstruction, New South Wales Reconstruction, and all those other agencies. Locally in this shire, in Wingecarribee Shire, we also provide the primary rescue response service. So we are responsible 24/7, 365 for road crash rescue, general land rescue, vertical rescue, flood rescue, large animal rescue, and a whole raft of other things that I'm sure I haven't forgotten. And then, of course, we also have a legislated responsibility to support our partner agencies. So a common example of that is during the 2019-20 bushfire season, we had teams out supporting RFS so they could focus on their combat role and we could help with the other stuff, logistics, food, transport, road closures, etc., etc. That is a really important part of our role as an emergency service, and I'm sure all the combat agencies would agree with me tonight, taking an all-agency approach to emergency management, working together to resolve the outcome, resolve the issue. It's not about what service is best at doing what, it's about working together collaboratively, and it's really good to see that coming through our local emergency management committee here in Wingecarribee, with lots of exercises that are showing each other's strengths and what we have to offer to be able to help the community. So in terms of a capability update, I know this is a little bit south of the northern villages, but I did think it was still important to touch on. Recently, the New South Wales SES, the Southern Highlands cluster, was awarded $4.4 million from New South Wales SES, so the state government, and it was co-funded by Wingecarribee Shire Council to construct a new shed or a new unit for our Moss Vale team in Parks Road. To give you guys we've got a very proud Moss Vale member who's very excited about our new shed. To give you guys a bit of an example of what that team works with at the moment is a 1.5 bay garage with non-functioning toilets and all sorts of stuff. So it's a massive, massive boost for us locally, which will in turn allow us to effectively respond to these incidents and help you guys. Next slide. In terms of an operational update, since January this year, we've responded to 337 requests for assistance. Now that's broken down between storm responses, so trees down on roads, trees on roofs, broken tiles on roofs, leaking houses, all sorts of things. In that 337, we've also had 102 rescue responses. Now that number would be up by about 6 or 7 because we've had an extremely busy week this week, and that number is current as of last week. But to compare that to 2022, we responded to 2,500 requests for assistance. So that sort of gives you a bit of an idea of the fluctuating nature of how we work. We've had a relatively dry season so far, and we've been really lucky that the community has been listening to the feedback we provide in terms of preparedness and helping us being able to do our job properly. On dry and wet seasons, we are entering storm season. The beginning of October marks the first month of storm season. That will go all the way through to March next year. Now, while storms can happen at any time during the year, there is a much more heightened risk of them occurring and being more severe during these months. So it's really important that you guys keep an eye out for the public messaging we're putting out. Similar to RFS, we also have a responsibility to issue warnings and provide information to the community. Now, most commonly, we'll do that via our website, ses.nsw.gov.au, and our local Facebook pages, but we're also stepping up our community engagement processes and attending more community fairs and engaging with the community and answering those questions around preparedness, around what you can do to make your home safer and make our jobs easier. Because at the end of the day, when it gets really, really busy, we have East Coast lows coming in and 6,000 requests for assistance in. It's the longest wait you guys will ever have when you've got a massive leak coming in your roof and we're working through a whole lot of other things. So it's important that we upskill you guys and help you help yourselves, if that makes sense. So that sort of covers off our role as a combat agency. We will also be hanging around afterwards outside for a cup of tea. We've got a few members of our team here that'll be more than willing to have a chat with you, discuss any questions you may have. But thank you all very, very much for your attendance, and I appreciate speaking to you. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Aiden Barton. Myself, along with my team, manage biosecurity operations across the Wingecarribee, Golden Warri and Upper Lachlan Shires. So my role on the LEMC is to represent the agricultural and animal functional service area, along with DPI. So really that role is about identifying the risks and identifying risks to animals and agriculture and ensuring that those risks are considered when we're planning our emergency plans, including bushfire plans, flood plans, all that sort of stuff. So local land services as an agency play a role across preparedness, response and recovery. So in terms of preparedness, I guess, along with your bushfire plans, we try and get people to really think about your animals, and that's including companion animals, not just livestock. What would you do with them? What would you take? Ensuring you've got a first aid kit for your animals as well as for yourself. If you are a primary producer, consider when you're doing your bushfire plan for your property where you'd be able to put your animals if you couldn't get them out of the way of a fire, if you couldn't get them out of the way of a flood. So considering all that, and that might be just having a big open yard or, So we really push people to consider that because you won't always be able to get your animals out. So that's your relocation plan. So part of ASFA's role is to man the Agricultural and Animal Services hotline. So during an emergency, this is manned 24/7. So it manages all requests for assistance, including animal welfare, emergency feed and water if you were to lose fodder or infrastructure, locating and surveillance of stranded stock. So this can involve helicopter surveillance, which is particularly used during floods. We work with SES during floods to locate stock that need rescuing. As we spoke about before, we don't rescue animals, but we work closely with the rescue agencies to ensure that's considered in our plans as well. You'll see us during a bushfire or flood or other natural disaster. We will activate and coordinate animal safe places or evacuation centres. So we'll have a large animal evacuation centre, which Mossvale Showgrounds, Bong Bong Racecourse has been used. And we'll also have a small animal centre, and we'll be set up with WellFac and Red Cross there as well. So our role there is to ensure that all pets and livestock, their welfare is considered and taken care of. We'll have vets available. But at the end of the day, the animals are the owner's responsibility. So having that preparedness, hopefully once you get there, you can look after yourself a bit and we can continue supporting everything else during an emergency. Just a quick bit on recovery. So local land services has an advisory role in our day jobs, but certainly in natural disasters, we work closely with recovery and other departments to ensure advisory services are provided for primary producers to recover from natural disasters. So that can be erosion advice, pasture management, animal health advice, that sort of thing. And we'll also assist primary producers with undertaking damage assessments, which ensures that in council areas that declarations of natural disasters occur, and it helps get grants flowing and gets that recovery process flowing. And just quickly, I'll touch on our role as a combat agency supporting DPI in biosecurity and food safety emergencies. So we support landholders day to day to prevent, prepare and respond and recover from animal emergencies. So everyone would have heard over the last few months, foot and mouth disease, African swine fever, varroa mite, white spot of prawns. So we are the combat agency for all plant and animal diseases, including aquatic. And again, we work really closely with all the other agencies. So, for example, I think just about every RFS volunteer in the state has had a stint on the varroa mite response, and we're far from over there. And again, even SES has helped out with white spot response and on the coast and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's just a bit about that. And this, sorry, can you just go back? This number is really important, the emergency animal disease hotline. So not even if you're not a primary producer, you're driving past a paddock and you see a heap of, strange animals, laying down or dead or slobbering, it's really important. We really encourage everyone in the community to know that hotline and report anything unusual. So thank you.
G'day everyone, my name's Andrew Ray. I'm from the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority, the Illawarra South East region. I'm here tonight with my associate Phoebe Ward, just to talk a little bit about Reconstruction. As Corinne pointed to before, New South Wales Reconstruction Authority was stood up in December last year, and that was in response to the flood inquiry once again from the Northern Rivers flooding, where it was recommended that a new department be stood up and the old Resilience New South Wales to be disbanded, and to have really clear and concise lines of when we're responding to emergencies and when we're preparing for and recovering from emergencies. So the Reconstruction Authority has got 4 key remits: planning, mitigation and adaptation. So really quick example of that is looking at flood levy levels and up in Lismore at the moment. So how do we actually mitigate the disasters occurring? We're not going to stop them, but how do we stop them having such a big impact? Local preparedness. The RFS SES will work with you on your personal preparedness plans. We're looking at rolling out toolkits around what preparedness looks like for communities and making sure that that information is consistent across the board. Community-centred recovery. We speak a lot after Black Summer around community-led initiatives and community-led recovery, but what we've found is that recovery, everything we do in recovery should have the community at the centre, and we will walk alongside you and help guide that process. Of course, we're going to promote that you guys have a big say in what that looks like for you, and we're there to help achieve those outcomes. And obviously long-term rebuilding and reconstruction. Once again, I'll point out to Lismore because that's probably the most recent event. We have up at the moment whole townships up there that will never be built on again. So what does it look like? Where do we relocate these people to? The home rebuild scheme up in Lismore, the relocation scheme. So we'll buy back the properties and then help these people help these residents relocate to other areas. Really extreme cases that will occur in. So whilst we've listened to everyone tonight, our role is very different. We are not a response agency, but that doesn't mean that we just ignore that part of it, because while a response is going on, it's really important that we are sitting there and listening to our first responders and our emergency service agencies to actually start gathering intelligence of what a recovery could look like and what potentially we'll need. So we'll also start drafting the disaster declarations. So when we're in an emergency, there's an emergency declaration declared, but when a disaster is declared and at what level that's declared at will I guess, guide what sort of support is given to communities. Things like primary producer grants, rural landholder grants, disaster recovery grants for communities, so people who've lost their houses to help them rebuild. One of the main things we do, though, is we really walk alongside council. Council are critical and a key player in responding to and recovering from emergencies. So we work very closely with council before, during and after emergencies to make sure that we can assist them with any resourcing they need, and then we will actually go that extra yard and now set up recovery centres and things like that and help them out in that way. So in the short term, in recovery, as we all know, in this community in particular, recovery takes time and it's complex. So we've sort of split up into three: short, medium and long term. So in the short term, we will help establish local recovery centres. I believe there was one here after Black Summer. We'll undertake impact assessments. This is a new thing we're doing. So when an event occurs, the emergency services, RFS, SES, depending who it is, will undertake a rapid impact assessment of houses damaged, destroyed, things like that. We will come in after that when it's declared safe for us to do so, and we'll go door to door and we'll talk to people about the actual impact and get a little bit more detail, because it's not always visible. An example of that recently was an event down at the Craigs Road Fire down at Currawheeler, where RFS did a great job and they saved 45 houses, 45 properties. But our mind automatically went to there was 45 properties that potentially were impacted. We may not have lost a house there, but there would have been damage to the farm, the fences, the fodder loss, the shed losses, and that's exactly what we found. So we'll go in and do a bit more of a deep dive, and we'll continue to do that. So we'll do that probably every 3 to 6 months, come back and just assess how people are moving through recovery. We'll work with council, depending on the size of the event, we'll set up local recovery committees. So that could be agricultural based, it could be economic based, and it could be community based as well. We'll coordinate the government and non-government agencies to provide linkages. This area or this shire has had a lot of land slipping, so we will help coordinate Transport for New South Wales to come in and assist in getting those roads open and the work to repatriate those roads done, and obviously coordinate the government funding as well. In the medium to long term, as I said, we'll continue to do the impact assessments. We'll fund the community resilience officers, people like Dave and Corinne in a past role, and recovery support services. So sometimes we'll outsource that to local community centres or non-government organisations to assist, support and case manage those people who need it most. The disaster recovery grants and other support mechanisms. So disaster recovery grants, obviously, for people who do need a hand up after an event, may have lost a house and qualify to assist and rebuild their properties. But the one thing that I really want to make a point of is that we'll be here for the long haul. So what we do understand since Black Summer is that recovery is complex and recovery takes time. So we're going to be around for the long haul. We have regional delivery teams set up across the state. In our team alone, we've got 11 team members spread from Moss Vale right down to where I am, right down on the border at the Snowy Valleys. In extreme cases, in the long term, we do have authority under the Planning Act to change town planning. So up in Lismore at the moment with the home buyback scheme, those properties that are being brought back, that land will never be built on again. They'll become green spaces to ensure that obviously we're not going to rebuild in flood impacted areas. That's about it, isn't it? That's it. Yep. So thanks very much for your time. Thanks so much for having us. We're going to hang around. Phoebe and I are here, and please, look forward to talking to you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Geraldine, and I'm involved with the Red Cross Emergency Services team here in the Southern Highlands. One of the lovely things that we do as far as Red Cross is concerned is that we complement all the other combat agencies in our preparedness message. They're the action people, we're the welfare people. So our point of difference is the fact that we look after and focus on a person's individual preparation and their psychological preparation as well. Red Cross preparedness covers the Ready Plan. The Ready Plan is our particular tool to assist families in the way they get their preparation done within their own family, within their own home. We have volunteers here today. I'm a bit small, there we go. And the two Johns are here, and they have a copy of the Ready Plan in case you'd like to take one home with you. We also have volunteers that go and provide a presentation for you, any group, for 1 hour, a presentation session, and we will go through that Ready Plan with you. So that's very easy for us to do. Another thing we do is we have a children's pillowcase program. This is for years 3 and 4 children. and that assists the kids how to prepare, cope and respond to an emergency. And that helps them reduce the real and imagined fears and successfully provide their skills to manage stress. We've done that here. We've done it at Buxton years and years and years ago, and the children respond beautifully and they really understand what's going on. They understand and are able to discuss the importance of preparation, and it prepares their mind and their thoughts and their feelings that can arise during and after an emergency. And they know exactly what to pack in their emergency kit. The other thing that Red Cross have also is the Get Prepared app. Now, after the session tonight, both of our Johns, our volunteers, can assist you. We have a QR code in case you'd like to put that app on your phone, and you can do it directly tonight. The other part of our response is in an evacuation centre. We will be there to meet you in an evacuation centre should you need to leave your home, and that will be at a designated evacuation centre. And we will provide personal support, and we will link you to the people who can give you assistance immediately. We register people, as Renee said, with the Register, Find, Reunite. And we could probably go over to that, please, David, if you would. There we go. Now, that's a service that is activated, as Renee said, by the police. Red Cross are commissioned to complete these forms at the evacuation centre. However, as she said, people can complete this online. And at the evacuation centre, we will have a card with that QR code on it that you can do it on your phone straight there and then. We're also going to be able to provide that to Aiden and his local land service volunteers and staff, that they can do that also at the showground or any other place where stock have to be, and so that everybody can be registered. Now, the reason why we register people is because the police need to know that you're safe. And the second reason is if you can't find somebody and you can't connect with them, there is also another part of that Register, Find, Reunite that you can contact or look online that it says inquiry. I've actually done that myself when I lost a friend up in Queensland and I didn't know where she was. She wasn't answering a phone and she was very elderly. And I filled out that form and the police rang me back and told me she was safe in that aged care facility. So I know it works. Now, on that slide, you'll see that QR code. But one of the things that's very, very important when you fill out that form is there is an area on there that's called consent. Now, that consent is terribly, terribly important. It will ask you to tick one of three questions. And the question number one is, do you want to share your details? Question number two is, do you only want people to know that you've registered? Or the other box that you tick, actually, you tick the boxes, do not share my details with anyone. Now that, you only tick one of those boxes. Now you must tick at least one of those, you must tick only one of those boxes, because if you don't, all of that information the police will not receive because there's no permission given from you to be able to share that information or not share it or whatever. So that's terribly, terribly important. The other thing that I want you to know is when you fill out one of those Register, Find, Reunite forms, whether you are in an evacuation centre, if somebody comes in and says, look, I'm looking for Mary Smith, is she here? We cannot tell them anything about anybody in that evacuation centre. So your information is confidential. We also do outreach, if you wouldn't mind going back, please, David. Thank you. We also do outreach. Now, that outreach means after the emergency has finished, we will then, with the direction of the government, go and visit every home in a particular area, in a particular village, and go street by street and just to see how you're going. Are you okay? Are the kids sleeping all right? Because they often have terrible reactions. And then we will be able to refer you to a particular service provider. And as far as recovery is concerned, Red Cross will always be at a recovery centre to be able to refer you to any of the agencies. We will meet and greet you. The AA services that will be there will be people like financial assistance, legal aid, mental health support, and insurance, and a lot of those agencies. So, and we've even been looking after your kids, sort of like here we had, the recovery centre here for a period of time. So if parents need to go and talk to one of the legal aid fellows, we'd sort of look after the kids in the corner so that they could have a clear head to be able to speak with those people. And a couple of years ago, I just want to tell you about this story. Young Craig Rucastle, who's a barrel lad, did a beautiful series on the ABC called Big Weather. And I don't know whether any of you saw it, but if you look up this particular photograph under Big Weather, it will have a YouTube specifically about getting ready, getting prepared. And it challenges two families. There's a family of 6, pardon me, and a family of 4. And he challenges them to get ready in 10 minutes. And it's very, very interesting, and it's very funny too. But it is a real wake-up call about how important it is for everybody to be prepared, and you only have a certain period of time to be ready. And one of the questions that maybe you could sit and think about yourself, if the power goes off, how are you going to open up your roller doors on your garage? So they're the things you need to be thinking about in your preparedness. The 3 questions that I really would like you to consider is: where will you go? What will you take? And how will you get there safely? So on the last slide, we're talking about the stresses that occur with emergencies, and we all know what that's like. You might not know what to do. You might not know where people are. You may not be thinking clearly. You may lose things that you cherish, and the world can be turned upside down. So if you are well prepared, you will reduce all of that anxiety and those fears to help you recover better. So the best ways that we can do that is by, if you go to the next slide, please, David. Yeah, thank you. The Ready Plan, which is what we'll have with the 2 lads and myself, and that's about our key preparedness resorts and all hazards. It's designed with considerable consultation with disaster experts and communities across Australia, and there are 4 easy steps to follow. Get in the know, get connected, get organised and get packing. And there are various other versions where they're easy English, some for older people, some for people with disabilities and their carers. And the last thing I want to tell you about is that Get Prepared app, because we will. That takes on a whole new way of doing things on your phone. It's includes linking 3 key emergency contacts, a safe meeting place, and it can be shared with others. And we will have the little QR code that you can actually put that straight on your phone tonight. Thank you.
I think I'm with you, Daniel. I feel a bit more fluid this way. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview, an update on the 2021 Bushfire Response and Review. So if there's any of you that aren't across this, it was a review that was independently taken on, implemented by Council, but taken on by David Owens. And he and Council worked alongside each other to go out to community. We did a lot of community consultation in 2021, which was in the middle of COVID, so it was mainly online. And a part of this report were 44 recommendations for Council in regards to response, recovery, preparedness. Some of the key themes are training, so training of staff, understanding that staff, are they trained in the evacuation centres, in the EOCs, making sure that our frontline staff as well, who are taking calls from the community, really understand the traumatic experiences that people may or may not be going through, and ensuring that we're giving them that quality and support around those everyday inquiries as well. We looked at essential services, also staff welfare and support. So working in a council where you live in the same local government area, it's really important that we look after our staff. I think we have about 70% of our staff work and live here in the Wingecarribee Shire. So we've got to be really ensure that we're looking after our community and our staff, because they're also going through the same things as what community will be doing as well. Grants and funding. So we looked at getting a full-time grants management officer who is incredible, mind you. So happy to chat further with you and connect you through to him. So he's incredible. We looked at the local recovery plan. A lot of themes came out of that. The LEMC. And so part of tonight is actually showcasing the local emergency management committee, who we are, what we do in the background to ensure your safety, your preparedness, our response. And then we also looked at the prevention, cleanup and compliance and our communications. So understanding who obviously we know who the combat agencies are, but our communications to the community. So whether that's in just preparedness, whether that's in where are we going for recovery, what's happening, and keeping you in the loop as well. So what we really want to understand as well, what I want to explain about our response and review, there is an update going to council next month about this. And I guess what we really want to drive home is that this is not just 44 recommendations that we've got given and we tick box and we go, great. How good are we? We've done this. It's about ensuring that we put all of these key themes into our everyday workings at council. Every single staff member needs to understand that their roles and functions within the council impacts community, and we need to be on top of where we can be best placed, that we're trained, we understand the essential services in recovery, and that we're here for community in the long run. Next slide. So as part of Council's readiness and some of the themes that we just spoke about coming out of the review, Council allocates $1.4 million through the emergency levy to support the SES. This is ongoing, the RFS and emergency services. We also looked at infrastructure. So you got your water tanks, your defibrillator machines, the Wi-Fi to the villages, making sure that that's current. Where are the needs? Are we addressing it? Can we get these put in? There's been done a few in the southern and northern villages and more to roll out as well. Our website information and communications. So we've got a really intense media and communications plan for upcoming bushfire season. What does that look like in floods? Let's be prepared and make sure that our community are connected. And facilitating resilience sessions. So one of the key roles, I worked as a community recovery officer. As Andrew said, it was funded by then, at the time, Resilience New South Wales, but will be continued on in emergency or post-recovery. But also understanding that there was a gap, that once that program had completed, how can council step into that space and continue that support for community? So through grant funding, we've got Dave, who's our community resilience officer. So making sure that for a 2-year continuation of that role, that the work's being done out in community. On that note, I will pass over to Dave. So he'll just give you a bit of a snapshot of what he's been doing the last 6 months and how he will work with you closely.
Thank you, Corinne. As Corinne mentioned, I'm David Bellick. I am the Community Resilience Officer for Council. Firstly, I wanted to thank everyone for coming out this evening and listening to our combat and functional agency representatives of the LEMC. It is very much appreciated. We hope you are getting a lot of useful information out of tonight. So just a little bit about my role. The Resilience Officer position was actually funded by, was actually applied for from Council for the Black Summer Bushfire Recovery Grant. And I suppose, I get this a lot. What exactly do you do, David? What exactly is a resilience officer? I guess when it all comes down to it, it is identifying those opportunities for resilience planning with you, the community, in regards to future emergency events. And there's also a little bit of a recovery planning component to that as well. Breaking, I suppose, my role down a little bit further. So I'm responsible for delivering those 9 or 10 grant milestones. One of which there you'll see the mural there on the side of Hilltop Village Store there by young Sam Hill there. So the mural project was commissioned by Council for Southern Tablelands Arts to install, I think it was 12 different murals across the Shire there. You've probably seen them dotted around the areas, your area there. That was a very successful project that was launched through the funding. Some of the other things, the other projects that I've worked on, I often work with the local health district. One of the recent projects that we completed was the Climate Disasters in Your Health workshop, again funded by money provided by the National Emergency Management Agency. And chairing the Wingecarribee Social Recovery Subcommittee. That comprises a lot of different agencies, a couple of state agencies such as the Reconstruction Agency, who you heard from earlier this evening, community links and the like, and working with our community partners such as Geraldine at Red Cross there. We helped out her team with recently with the listening consultations for the Northern Villages. I think earlier this year we had one here, I think here in this very hall. So my role for the next 6 months will be to fulfil or complete those grant milestones. One of the big ones on there is the oral history project. So that will involve, you may have, I know Balmoral Community Association has already has been approached about this. So that will be involving commissioning a historian to collect and preserve the experience of those living in the Northern Villages, not just Balmoral, but the surrounding villages as well. And that will be about recording whole of life experiences. So it won't necessarily be about your experiences with the Black Summer bushfires. It will be encompassing people, the lives of people that have lived and worked in the area. We're also, we've got David Sanderson here from University of New South Wales. We're working with him and as well as the Reconstruction Authority to deliver the Resilient Towns Initiative. So this is only in the sort of fledgling stages of this program. So stay tuned for that. We're actually identifying villages now to be a part of that program. We're also, this comes from a separate pot of funding here, but it's a funding run by council itself, this Community Resilience Small Grants Program. So if you're a community association or if you've got any ideas for disaster preparedness projects, we can definitely help with that. If you need help submitting an application for that, or if you want any more information about it, please do approach myself or Corinne at the conclusion of the meeting, and we can definitely help with that. And lastly, my role is, I guess, supporting the rollout of communications and ensuring our community is ready. So, as we mentioned, Corinne mentioned earlier, one of the recommendations was assisting with evenings such as tonight and showcasing the work that council and the LEMC do. My role plays a big part in that as well. But again, I'm here at the end of the evening as well. If you wanted to come up and have a chat, any ideas for any projects for the Community Resilience Small Grants Program, please do come up and we'll have a chat. So thank you.
Okay, now it's over to you as community. All right, so we've heard some incredible messages and applications that you can upload, that there's support for you in your preparedness and your response recovery. So this is a bit of a call to action to community. Last slide, don't worry. And so we've got our bags on the seats for you. There's plethora of information in there. There's QR codes for the apps that you've heard about tonight, and also our combat agencies do have a lot of intel outside as well, so grab those goodie bags, make sure you fill them in as well. As Daniel said, there is bushfire ready plans in there and additional ones outside if you need any for friends and family. So what we really want you to take home tonight, or even do it here, would be amazing, is download the Hazards Near Me app. So we've got the QR codes here, we'll leave them up on the screen, but we would love you to stay and have a conversation with any of the combat agencies or council here tonight. You've also got the Red Cross Get Prepared app and Complete Your Ready plan. So Geraldine and the two Johns are here to help you with that. Also, we encourage you to watch the How to Pack for an Emergency Fire Evacuation. So it's very dear to Geraldine's heart and an amazing resource there. And then also give your feedback on those next generation bushfire risk management plans. So Daniel's here for conversation. And also there is your local RFS control line for you to have a bit of a yarn over the phone. But I do want to just thank every one of you for coming here this evening. We really appreciate your time. I want to thank all of the combat agencies as well for giving up your time. State government, it's amazing to work for local government and see this happen, and the support that we are now doing in community really warms my soul. I love it. And yeah, I just also want to say a huge thank you to Balmoral Village Association for, look at the hall, looks amazing. So we want to thank them as well. Please stick around. Have a cuppa. Thank you so much for coming this evening.